Okay, we'll go ahead and get started here. Obviously, just want to thank everybody for coming to another Senior Living Education Series seminar. A few quick just housekeeping notes before we start here. If you haven't been to the gathering place, I think everybody here is either from Monroe or has been here, but I was just going to mention the restrooms are back there and to the right. If you haven't already, please silence your phones just so we can keep distractions to a minimum, and I would appreciate that. And then the last thing is at the end of the seminar, we typically do a Q&A session. So if you want to hold your questions and write them down on the back of any sheets or notes that you have, and then at the end we'll do open it up to the audience and do a Q&A session. So for those that do not know me, my name is Andy Algreen. I'm a senior downsizing coach, and these monthly seminars are designed to help you cut through the noise and get the answers you need. Our mission is to educate, equip, and empower older adults and their families with trustworthy information on aging, planning, and next steps without any pressure or sales pitches. So every day we're all just bombarded with ads, sales pitches, data collection, making it hard to know where to turn for trustworthy information. So our Senior Living Education Series is here for you, and it was essentially created for with older adults and their families in mind to offer clear, honest, and useful information on topics that matter as you age. Join us as we explore, learn, and empower ourselves to live better and more informed lives, because with the right knowledge, you can navigate the challenges of aging with confidence and peace of mind. We believe that everyone deserves access to reliable education that makes the journey of aging less daunting. Since we started these seminars in January, we've been working hand in hand to show the value we've been working hand in hand to show the value to other senior living communities, financial planners, senior move managers, professional organizers, to basically show them and other businesses that these are valuable, and I'm just trying to show that it's just all about education, basically. So the goal is always to keep these events free to you and have no associated costs with them. So with that, I just want to introduce our first two education partners of 2025, and they're located in the back there. It is Lisa with Park Center, which is located in Newton, and Montessa with Hearthstone, which is located in Pella. And they are both continuing care retirement communities, which are CCRCs, and they are both a part of the Wesley Life family. And really, these partners are here for two key reasons. The first one is because they are essentially helping make these events possible. Their support is what keeps these seminars free to you and the rest of the communities. We don't charge any admission. We are not selling any of your information. We don't push any products, because our goal is to create a space where you can simply learn and just make confident decisions. Then the series, and as this series continues to grow, and it is growing, for the first one we had 8 people, second one 14, the past one I think we had like 24, and we're probably about 24, 25 a day-ish. So as we grow, we're going to need more space, just better technology, and kind of help with figuring out more and better logistics. And with that comes a cost. So having them partner with us just helps ensure that we can continue offering this level of programming without having to pass on any of the costs. So just trying to keep it 100% free for everybody. Second reason is because they're really just here to be a resource as myself. And they aren't just education partners. They're professionals who work directly with older adults and their families every single day. So if you have any questions about just different care levels, senior living options, what things actually cost, feel free to, they'll be here like at They will be at these events going forward. So they'll be here prior to the event, so you can come and ask them any questions prior to, and then they'll hang out after for a bit, so you can ask them any questions after. So they are obviously approachable, knowledgeable, and just genuinely here to help us. And I am very grateful to have them on board as we continue to grow the Senior Living Education Series to serve families across central Iowa. So, sorry for the long intro. Go next here. Now, we will get to today's session, which is communicating with your adult children. For many, talking with adult children about things like future plans, finances, health decisions can feel overwhelming, but when those conversations are approached well, they can actually bring peace of mind and bring families closer together. So today I would like to welcome Mary Eikenberry, who brings a wealth of knowledge and experience with working with older adults and their families. So welcome, Mary. Oops, sorry.
Nope, that's okay. Get it. We'll get it. Maybe. There we go. Thanks, Andy. Is it on?
I think so.
Is it on? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
Good, definitely. I'll just have you go ahead and just start, just share a little bit about yourself, your background, what you used to do, and what you do now.
Okay. How much time do we have? Actually, I do what Andy does. I've been doing it since 2018 in Des Moines. And I got to say, he is doing an incredible job for his first few months. Give him a big hand. I am really, really impressed. I started working with seniors back in 2000, maybe 7 or 8. And I think for most of us that work with seniors, it's usually a result of a family situation, which was the case with me. My dad had gotten very ill, and they were up in Charles City, 2.5 hours from Des Moines. And they were able to stay in their house. I was a realtor. That wasn't the issue. It was the issue of, where are the resources for my folks? I mean, I'm 2.5 hours away. I had no idea. And I had family up there. They didn't have any idea. I would talk to some of Mom and Dad's friends, and they really weren't sure. Dad was on dialysis for 5 years. And that's a tough thing to deal with. It took its toll on him, obviously. It took its toll on Mom. And I remember coming home one day saying to myself, I want to be able to be more than just a realtor. If I'm working with people that are aging, I want to be able to be the resource for them, that they don't have to struggle trying to figure out what I'm trying to figure out, because it was tough. My brothers weren't any help because they were out in Philadelphia and Atlanta. So guess what? You know, the one that's closest is the one that usually gets things going. So I just started doing some seminars for churches and different communities and so on and so forth. And then in 2016, I discovered the Senior Real Estate Institute out of Oklahoma City. And I went to that class, and I'm going, oh my gosh. This woman had designed a course that was doing what I was trying to do, but I wasn't going to have to reinvent the wheel. And so I started doing, really working with seniors as they were trying to move out of their homes. But I found that I had 3 roles now. First of it was being an educator. Second was being an advocate for my senior clients. And the last thing was being the realtor. Because when you get ready to move out of your home after you've been there, well, let me ask, how many of you have been in your home 20 years? 30? 40? 50? 60? Okay. Oh, 70? 62. Okay, you match you tie my top one in Des Moines. That was 62 years. So when you've been in your home for that many years, you just aren't going to pack up everything and take it to wherever you're moving. You got 50, 60 years of junk to get rid of. And moving moving today isn't like it was the last time you moved. So there's a lot of things. So I wanted to be able to help people through that process, because it is a process. So when you decide to make that move, it starts here. The move is down here, maybe 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years down the road. But what can you do during that time frame to get you there? And part of that process is your kids. Some of the kids are really easy to work with. Some of them aren't. So that's just a little bit about me. I retired from real estate 2 years ago. I've been doing it for 30 years. And I discovered that I loved the educating and the advocating a whole lot more than I did selling houses. So that's what I'm doing now.
Perfect. Speaking about kids, we'll just dig right into it and talk about some common misconceptions that kids might have, parents might have. What are some common misconceptions older adults have about their children, and like what they actually worry about?
Okay. Well, whether you know it or not, your kids are talking about you. They're having conversations that you don't know about. Especially the kids that aren't around and don't see you as often. So if you have family that comes and sees you during the holidays or, every several months, they're going to notice changes more readily than the kids that are close by and see you every day. So they're going to get home and they're going to call Andy and say, Andy, I was a little distressed at what I saw at mom and dad's. He's going to go, what? I was just over there the other day. Everything looks fine. Andy, you're blind. This is what I've seen since I was there last time. So the kids are talking to each other and they're going, I can't believe how unkempt the house is. Mom used to keep it so well. The house, Dad used to just, everything was perfect, and it's just not the way it is. And I noticed that they're really having a hard time maneuvering. I see Mom is just, she kind of is leaning on chairs and stuff. And some of the stuff is more subtle. But there's going, so Andy, what are we going to do if they can't stay in their house? Where should we move them to? Well, those are the conversations that they're having, and they're making plans without you knowing it. Do any of you have kids doing that? They probably are, and you just don't know it. There are two things that are really important for you as you age that older adults / seniors need in their lives. Number one is control. You need to maintain control in your life as long as you possibly can, because we're at a point that we are starting to lose control. Our eyesight is getting worse. We may have to stop driving. We aren't as active as we used to be. Just a lot of those more subtle things that we're losing control of, physical, maybe some mental issues. So you want to maintain control as much as you possibly can. And the second thing that older adults want to be able to do is know that they've left a legacy. What impact have I had on my family? What impact have I had on my community or my church or whatever that happens to be? And it's a good thing to do some reflecting on that. But this, going back to the first one, control. How many of you want your kids telling you where you're going to move? Nobody raised their hand. How come? Oh, how many of you want your kids telling you where you're going to move next? Or when you're going to move? I don't want my girls telling me where to go. I mean, they do that often. So if you can no longer stay in your home safely, where do you want to go? These seminars are all about planning, having your plan, not your kids' plans, not somebody else's, your plan. What does that plan look like? So that's kind of some of that conversation. And the kids are also wondering, well, what are mom and dad's financial situation? Do they have money, or are they going to have to stay in their home? I think we're still a part of a generation that kind of keeps some of that information close. We're not freely divulging our financial information to our kids. I never knew how much my dad made until he passed away. Well, I take that back. I did once when we were finally filling out the forms for college. And he wrote really hard, and he was using a tablet, so I took the pencil and I scratched. I know. Yeah, I'm kind of sneaky sometimes. But most of the time, kids don't know. So how can we help mom and dad plan? How can your kids help you with your plan if they don't have the whole picture? So those are a couple of biggies, I think.
Yep, that's really good. Kind of sticking with the same idea. What kind of reassurances are adult children usually looking for? These things.
I think they want to see the full picture. They want to really know what your thoughts are. What are your plans? The financial part is huge. The legal part is huge. And those are hard conversations to have. It's hard for the kids to listen to that because it's kind of a reality check for them that, oh, I'm kind of still seeing mom and dad as being, in their 50s and 60s, and all of a sudden mom and dad are older than that and they may not be here next year or whatever. So it's a hard thing for adult children to grasp that now we're talking about final arrangements and all that kind of thing. We had, my husband and I do these classes all the time, and you think I would be totally organized and have everything done. I have to admit, I'm not. I do have the plan up here, it's just not written down. But about 10 years ago, we bought our cemetery plots, and both of the girls were home from college, and I said, I'm so glad you're both going to be here because we've got some news to share with you. So we're sitting at the dinner table, and our older daughter says, so what's this news? I can assure you that what we had to tell them was not what they were expecting. I said, Dad and I have bought our cemetery plots. And it was just like deer in the headlights from both of them. And she says to us, and we should be excited about that. Why? Because that's one less thing you're going to have to do. The more that you can do for your kids, the better. I know I'm getting off topic here, and just rein me in. I was sharing with the gals back there that I did a lot of things wrong with my parents, a lot. And I can share those experiences with you. So, because I don't want you doing the same thing, and I don't want your kids feeling guilty. After my dad died, my mom stayed in her house, and she was doing great. I mean, she was in her late 80s, and she was doing great until we discovered that she had about 5 pelvic fractures. And this was at Thanksgiving. And I went back up and was with her for a couple of days, and I said, Mom, I really don't want you staying in the house this winter. I know you. You're going to be out shoveling, you're going to be out chopping ice, and the shower and the laundry were in the basement. I said, I would feel much better if you would just come to Des Moines for the winter. So she had to do some rehab anyway, so we moved her to Des Moines. She was in rehab, and then she went to assisted living, thinking that in the spring she would move back to her house, at which point she said, I'm going to sell the house. And we're going, yay, looking back, that was probably not the choice to make, but we did. So I said, so what do you want to do? Well, I think I'm going to stay here a little bit longer until we can figure out exactly what to do. Well, actually, when she moved to Des Moines, I didn't think she was going to make it 6 months. She was there 5.5 years. She wasn't in her own hometown. She didn't know people. She made friends. But she said, sitting at the table and they're talking about Clive and Windsor Heights and all these places, she said, meant nothing to me. I had no common experience to share with them. But like I said, she made a lot of friends. She outlived most of them. I took her to more visitations and funerals than I've ever been to in my life. So when she was 93 and her dementia started to take hold, so the 3 of us kids kind of made that decision that she was going to come to Des Moines. She agreed to it. And during that time, I tried to figure out some other ways that maybe she would be more content. I said, well, there's places in Mason City. Well, that's 30 minutes away. I said, Mom, we're 2.5 hours away from your friends here. No, it's just too much work. I'm going, oh, okay, whatever. But at one point, when she was in assisted living, she said to me, if I ever have to go into a nursing home, I want to go home. So Mom was 4 miles from me. I could get there in about 8 minutes. Her hometown was 204 miles away. But I'll tell you, it was the best thing that happened, even with her dementia. Two things. It was the biggest relief for my brothers and me that we didn't have to make that decision of where she was going to go. Because the guilt that the three of us felt that 5.5 years was incredible. When we moved Mom that day, it was the biggest relief on my shoulders that you can imagine. I hated to see her go that far away, but that was her choice. She was going back home. And let me tell you, when we walked into that nursing home, my younger brother was with me. We walked in and my mom goes, at 93, she goes, oh my gosh, there's a lot of old people here. And you hear that a lot because we all think we're younger than we are. And we walk in and she's going down the hall and she goes, I went to high school with him. I can't believe he's still living. And my younger brother is just choking. He's not around this. And he goes, oh, I know that family and I know them. Oh, they lived in Festina. She felt like she was home. She was 2 blocks from the house she grew up in. The family hardware store that's been around for 140 years was there. And I had cousins on both sides of the family. They would invite her for lunch. She was content. She was back home. She was where she needed to be. And the biggest thing is, it's about you and your spouse. It's not about your kids. And that's the biggest thing you have to remember. Is when you're talking with your kids, sometimes you're just going to have to step in and say, kids, I know you want what you think is best for us, but we're making the decisions. This is about us, and it's not about you. That's hard to say because it sounds a little selfish, and it is, and that's okay. You want to spend the rest of your life how you want to spend it, not how your kids want you to spend it, because they have lives of their own. How many of you have children out of state? Have any of them said, why don't you come live with us? Or why don't you move to Colorado or Indiana? Have any of you had that comment? Okay. My question would be, what do you want to do? Why would you want to move 6 states away to your daughter's house who has 9 and 10-year-olds and a teenager? Okay. Think about how busy are they going to be? How often are they really going to see you? I didn't see my mom as often as I should have when she was there. 4 miles away. I was doing good to see her once or twice a week because our kids were in school and I had a job. So when you're thinking about moving and your kids are talking to you about that, ask yourself, what would I be giving up if I decided to move, and why would I be moving there? Okay, you've got your friends, you've got your doctors, you've got your church, you've got organizations that you're in. My husband and I thought about moving up to that small town where Mom was, this cute little small town, we retired. And we almost had convinced ourselves to do it. We found a lot. We had a floor plan. And we looked at each other and said, we can handle all those changes. But think of the doctors we would have to get. And that we just said, no, we're going to stay put. But it was funny because my husband's a couple years older than I am. He said, that lot would be great. He said, that way when I'm in the nursing home across the street, you can just walk across the street to visit me. So, okay.
That's really good, powerful. One thing that I've kind of been thinking about lately is just having these conversations and thinking that hard conversations are the healthy conversations. So
Absolutely.
Getting everything out on the table and like, hey, this is what we are doing. This is our decision. So that's really good. So to kind of obviously kind of dig more into this, one stage of the process is figuring out a time where the family can meet and have the official family meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that I guess, what does effective communication between older adults and their adult children actually look like during the family meeting? When's the best time to set it up?
It's not at the Thanksgiving dinner table, and it's not Christmas. It's something that you really want to think about. And I've got some handouts over here for you to pick up on your way out. A lot of it depends on your relationship with your kids. Family dynamics can be really good, they can be not so good, and they can really be horrible. That's just the reality. So you need to take a good look at what's the relationship here. Now, I know of people that have some children that they don't even invite to the meeting because it's just not a healthy situation. So if you get together for a family gathering, say Easter's coming up, and you get together with the family, that's the time to say, Dad and I have been talking, and we're doing some planning for the future, and we would like to sit down and kind of share our thoughts with you. When would be a good time to do this? And set up, whatever. Ask yourself, who are we going to have at this meeting? Is it going to be just the kids? Are the spouses going to be involved? Are there any older grandkids? I know a lot of grandparents are very, very, very close to their grandkids, sometimes closer than their own kids. But you need to decide, who are we going to invite? And during this meeting, there are no kids. The phones are checked at the door. There's no TV, no football, no nothing. It is a structured meeting, and you need to let them know that this is important to us, and we want it to be important to you, because we don't want to have to dump all of this on you if something should happen to one of us or both of us. So what are you going to talk about? So before you have this meeting, you really need to sit down by yourself, or if you have a spouse, sit down and go, okay, so what is our plan? Well, we'd like to stay in our house as long as possible. Okay. What does that look like? Are we going to have any modifications? Would we be able to bring in-home care if one of us would need it? What happens if we can't stay in the house? Or I can stay in the house and you can't. Are we both going to move? Am I going to stay here with the house? And you're going to go into assisted living or rehab or skilled care, or whatever that happens to be. Life throws a lot of what ifs at us very, very quickly. My favorite saying is, when the emotions are high, the logic is low. How many of you would agree with that? The last thing you want is for one of you to fall down the steps, break a hip, and all of a sudden your life has been turned upside down overnight. Maybe that individual can come home. Maybe they can't. Now what do? You can't be making these decisions in a panic, because you're going to make knee-jerk decisions that in 6 months you're going to go, what in the world were we thinking? Well, you weren't. Friends were meaning well, were going to say, well, let's do this. I know some friends that went here, and they were so glad. Well, maybe we can't afford to go there. So you need to be checking out communities now. Check out your resources now. Go and visit. Visits are very simple. Just call up. They're not going to try and sell you. I know most of the marketing people and communities here in central Iowa. Believe it or not, their number one goal is to make sure that you find the right place. If it isn't theirs, they're going to recommend someplace else. I mean, that's Iowa nice. So take the time now to go and look, because you can do it objectively. You don't have any emotions tied in with it. You can ask the questions and think clearly through the process. And you may look at 6 communities. Take your top 2 or 3. You don't need, if there's 4 or 5, forget them. All you need to do is think about number 1, 2, and 3. And then next, get on their waiting list. Because if you're not on a waiting list, you're not going to get in. And even if you're on the waiting list, when you need it, there may not be an opening, which is why you have to have number 2 and a number 3. Is this a little overwhelming for some of you? I see some of you going, but yeah, so decide where you're going to go first. At least have some idea when you sit down with your kids and say, Dad and I have been talking, and we are thinking that we want to stay in the house, and this is our plan. We've talked to some home health and home care companies, and we picked out a couple that we really like, so if we need them, that's who we'd have. We're going to have some grab bars installed in the bathroom and one coming into the house from the garage, whatever, all those types of things. If we can't stay, we've gone to these communities, and these are our top 3. So if we have to move, you guys don't have to do any of that work. We've already done it. These are our top 3. So if Dad gets hurt, if he passes away and I'm a nervous wreck, all you have to do is look at my notes. This is what we want. Okay? So that's part of that. And actually, you're going to have more than one conversation. That's kind of the starter. And it's going to get the kids thinking. You may have a totally different, separate conversation about driving. What are you going to do for meals if you decide to stay in your house? I know so many people that have stayed in their houses and they've gotten in the habit of they just forget to turn off the burner. That's not a safe thing at all. Or they forget to turn off the water and pretty soon the water's flowing out of the sink. Those become very costly mistakes. So thinking through all those what ifs, what are we going to do if this happens? So those are some of the topics of the conversations that you're going to have. The people that have done this, and I've talked with them, that seem to have had the best results is when they have the plan. They say, this is what we're planning to do. Don't ask, what do you think? Because if you have 2 kids, you're going to get 3 different opinions. I'm just saying, you may think differently, and that's okay. We are interested in your concerns and your input. But we've already made up our mind. Tell us what your concerns are. Because you do want to get their feedback. You want to get them involved in the conversation. But if you say, what do you think? Or where do you think this is a good choice? Well, what are you going to do if they say no? You've already done your homework. You've gone out, you've looked. One of Andy's questions was getting third-party people involved. Mm-hmm. I had a couple that asked me to come to a family meeting. I was kind of naive at that point, going, I wonder why they're doing this. Well, it didn't take long to find out. So Mom and Dad are sitting at the table, and I'm here sitting next to the daughter, and the son was at the end of the table, and they're talking, and the mom says, kids, Dad and I have been talking, and we've decided that we're going to sell the house, we're going to move, and we're going to move, blah, blah, blah. And the son sits back in his chair, and he folds his arms, and he goes, that is the best news I've ever heard. He said, I think that's great. Good for you. Daughter's going to be a problem. She took her fist, and she pounded on the table and said, how dare you sell the family home? Where are we going to have Christmas and Easter and the kids' birthday parties and all this kind of stuff? And Mom and Dad were you could just see, they just became deflated. And they looked at each other like, well, maybe this isn't the right decision after all. And I'm sitting there going, oh, dear God, please give me some words to say because this is really uncomfortable. And I just said, Susan, sounds like maybe this came as a little bit of a surprise for you. And she goes, surprise doesn't even come close. She said, I never really thought that someday we wouldn't have the family house anymore. She said, I just always figured that Mom and Dad would be here, that would be the place that we would come. And she goes, I guess this is a reality check. And I said, yeah, it is. I said, home is where Mom and Dad are. And you've got a lot of memories here, and you'll have an opportunity to relive those before they move. And so at that point, we were able to move on with the conversation. But that was not the reaction. I don't think that was totally the reaction that they expected from her. Mm-hmm. I think they expected something, but maybe not quite that much. And when we left that day, when I left that day, she walked me out. The daughter walked me out, and she goes, "Thank you for setting me straight." And I said, "Yeah, I could tell that obviously this wasn't what you were expecting at this conversation." I said, "The biggest thing you have to remember, Susan, is this is about your folks. It's not about you." She goes, "Yeah, you're right." Now, I've had that conversation with another couple with their two boys. He was, "We're just going to go in. We're going to take that dumpster. They got so much crap in their house," and they did. The boys' bedrooms, they're in their 50s. The boys' bedrooms were exactly the way they were when they left, when they moved out. The school stickers were still on the doors. I mean, it was pretty amazing. And he was the one that was going to give me a tour of the house. And so we were walking, and I said, "Kyle," I said, I get where you're at, because you want to make it easy for you. But remember, this is about your folks." And so as we walked through the house, we talked, and he calmed down considerably. And I said, "We have a process. We have people that can help with this, where you're not going to have to be involved hardly at all." Because I think that was his concern, is for the family to go in and clean out. There was a pool table in the basement. Honestly, I didn't even know it. There was so much stuff. So anyway, be prepared. You know your kids. And when you get ready to make these discussions, you may get reactions differently than what you expect from your kids. And in that handout, there's different types of relationships that you have with your kids. There's the controlling one that lives 800 miles away. You've got the one that lives close by that has issues of her own, that she's not going to be able to help as much. She'd like to, but her hands are full. I mean, there's all these kinds of family dynamics. You need to go and look at that page and figure out who you've got in your family and kind of work that out. So does that kind of help you with that conversation, what you need to have on hand? Okay.
Yep. Nope, that's really good. A lot of this conversation and just kind of learning about the process and stuff, I feel like, is just learning to figure out how to ask the right questions and learning what questions to ask yourself that then can relate to your children to help change the perspective, or help change, or just, to get them to try to be on the same page, I guess. I guess one other thing, kind of continuing with the meeting, one other question is, so like we're sitting down, everybody's there who needs to be there. How do you stay on track and not get off course on, I want to keep this, TV. I get to keep this TV, you get that type of thing. How do you stay on track and not get off topic?
Okay. You are going to have an outline, and everybody's going to have a copy of the outline. It's kind of like a business meeting. You just have to say, this is what we want. This is what we plan to cover today. If you have other things you want to cover, jot them down and give them to us, because we will be having other meetings, because we want to go over the legal stuff. We want to go over the financial things. So we'll be getting together again. Who gets what is way down at the bottom of the list. Don't worry about that. That's a discussion for another time. We've all heard stories. But yeah, have an outline. This is what we're going to cover. Point 1, point 2, point 3. Don't forget to ask the kids for their input. What are their concerns? Why do they think we shouldn't move? For a lot of them, I'll be honest, for a lot of adult kids today, and I hate to say this, but I see it a lot. Maybe it's not so much in the rural areas, but boy, I see it a lot in Des Moines. What do you think the reason is that most adult kids don't want their folks to leave the house? Pardon? Money. If mom and dad move, they're going to have to use that money when they move someplace. There's not going to be as much money for us. And adult kids, unfortunately, will, if a parent needs assisted living, they're going to put them in independent living because it's less expensive. And if mom needs nursing care, they're going to put them in assisted living because it's less expensive than nursing care. I mean, it's about you. And we've told our kids, we're spending our money. They're, I never thought I would say that, but when I look at what they're making, one daughter's an engineer in Florida. Our other daughter's got her doctorate in nurse practice in Des Moines. They're making more money starting out than we did in our last 10 years. So they don't need our money. I'd probably leave them something, savings bond or something that they can cash in 30 years. But you need to be what are your children's motivation? Are they truly interested in your well-being, or is it more the money grab? And I hate to say it, I mean, there's a lot of them out there. Mom didn't want to spend money on hearing aids because she wanted us kids to have money. I'm going, Mom, $7,000 between the three of us, that's nothing, you know. But she wanted us to have the money. But that's part of that generation. They went through the Depression. They didn't have anything. They wanted their kids to, you know, have. And I'm grateful. I mean, my folks did quite well, and we were able to have some money that I'm using it for travel right now. But I just can't imagine saying, you know, we want you to move because we don't want you to move. We want you to stay in this house where you're not safe and you're isolated and everything else. But they're out there. So be on guard. You know, illness, chronic illnesses, and death bring out the worst in families. You may think your family is great. You may find out differently. When my mom died, I was the executor. I went into the attorney's office, and I hadn't even sat down yet. And he says, "So, Mary, how do you get along with your brothers?" I said, "Great." He goes, "No, really? How do you get along with your brothers?" And I said, "Great." He said, "Ross, why are you asking me this?" He said, "One more time. How do you get along with your brothers?" I said, "Ross, we have been on the same page with Dad. We've been on the same page with Mom. You know, we just want this to be done. We're good." He said, "Okay, I'm going to hold you to that." He said, "I ask everybody that comes in because," he said, "there are states that don't get settled for a year or two because they couldn't decide who was going to get this chair." It's not the big stuff. It's always the little stuff that trips them up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Nope, that's really good. So when we older adults and their children are actually looking at, you know, the downsizing process, and they're going through either moving into a smaller house or into a senior living community, what are, other than the family meeting, are there other tips that you might suggest that might help minimize conflict or just help things move more smoothly?
Well, to avoid conflict, I would say get your legal documents in order. Who's your power of attorney? Medical power of attorney? The durable power of attorney? We changed ours. Now our daughter is a nurse practitioner. She's our medical power of attorney. She's going to be able to make some very educated decisions for us, hopefully. And she's also the other power of attorney, simply because our other daughter's in Florida. It doesn't make sense. Now, some of you may have a child that just doesn't handle finances well. They don't make decisions well. Whatever. You don't have to have your power of attorney be somebody in your family. You need to have somebody that's going to step up and make the right decisions for you at the right time. And by having power of attorney, if you have 3 kids, having power of attorney is going to have the final say. The other 2 can throw a fit if they want to, but the power of attorney has the final say. If you don't have the power of attorney, no decision is going to get made, unless it's going to be made by the doctor or the hospital. Again, it's about being in control of your life. These are the things that I want to have done. Get them written out. Give the kids a copy so they know. And a power of attorney, how many of you have a power of attorney? Most of you do. That's great. A power of attorney dies when you die. So if Andy is my power of attorney and I pass away, power of attorney goes away. He can't do anything anymore. The executor takes over. Now, the executor may be Andy, but he would take over. But it may be maybe another sibling. It may be another child, whatever. Could be my husband. But all that gets written out. And with them knowing all of that makes a huge, huge difference. And just talk about. Now, one of the things that may come up in that conversation, I may say, well, we've appointed Andy as the power of attorney and our executor because he's reliable. He's close by. He knows our situation. You know, we would love to have you, Jane, you've got 3 kids, you've got a lot going on, and you're living in Indiana. It just doesn't make sense. It's not that we don't love you, but it's just not a practical decision. And having all of your kids as an executor, as a realtor, let me tell you, I was pretty new, and there were 7 kids. They were all executors. So when we listed the house, and they weren't all in town, this was back before email and all that kind of stuff, the old faxes. So we'd have to fax it to Andy first, and then we'd fax it to Jane. And we'd fax it to the next one in Colorado, and then it went to Arizona. Do you have any idea how long it took to get stuff done? Now, today, you can sign electronically. It doesn't take as long, but usually there's only spaces for 2 signatures on the paperwork. Can you imagine trying to get 7 people to agree on something? We've been offered $250,000 on the house. Oh, that's no, I'm not going to take it. We're going to take $252. No, I want $260. No, we're going to do this. Who won? One. Talk to your attorney about that and get that taken care of. Okay? So that's the difference between power of attorney. It's good while you're alive. The executor takes over after you're deceased.
Yep. Oh, that's really good. I guess kind of digging into the, obviously continuing the conversation, what should parents do if their children just overall just completely just disagree on what's best for them, and keeping the older adult and the senior in control of the situation?
We're going to write you out of the will. No. Come from curiosity. Why do you feel that way? Tell us why you're thinking that. It would help us to understand why you're feeling that way. So ask questions rather than going, well, that's too bad. We're doing what we said, and you probably are anyway. But it's good to know where they're coming from. So tell us why you're feeling that way. Don't ask them yes or no questions. That's because you're not going to get anywhere with those. Ask those questions where they have to dig a little bit deeper to come up with their answer. And you may find out some things that you had no idea were underlying from a long time ago. That's maybe another conversation with them. But this is the opportunity to really, for you to stay in control, but also to really, I think, enhance the family relationships. When we're all so busy when the kids are growing up. Our older daughter said something to me last year, and it just kind of blew me away. And I said, I never knew you felt that way. And she said, well, you were so busy dealing with sister with all the problems that she had in high school. I just kind of bit my tongue and just did my own thing. I'm going, oh my God, that just almost broke my heart. She covered it up so well. I had no idea. So it's, we had some good conversations about it. So it can be a great way to heal wounds. You might have some others come up, but I would like to leave this world knowing that I've done the best I can for my kids, and that they know I've done the best for them. I think with our kids, we do the best we can at the time with what we knew at the time. And you can look back and, hindsight's 20/20, but we do the best we can. But that was an eye opener. Like I said, she covered it up so well, and we all have kids that do that. We have grandkids that do that. They just kind of do their own thing.
Yep. So I guess last question here before we kind of open it up for Q&A. So, like, if I picture myself sitting in the audience and, okay, I'm going to go back home, I'm going to figure all this stuff out, I'm going to have the meeting, but, like, nothing actually happens for the next 5 or 10 years or whatever. How do I keep that conversation just constructive and, like, productive with my children, and just so it's not a one-time deal, so they know that it just is an ongoing thing that we're thinking about. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things we didn't mention is who initiates the conversation. Your kids or you? It should be you if you want to be the one in control. They're thinking about it. They would like to talk to you about it, but some of the kids are going to go, oh, I hate to bring this up to mom and dad because I don't want them to think that we're after the money. It's a money grab to get them moved or whatever. So for you to be the one to initiate it and just say, we'd like to get together, have a family meeting, because we're planning for the future and we'd like you to know what's going on. And so when you have that first meeting, it may be several months before you have another one, or maybe you schedule some of these, you have the driving one, the next one. Maybe one of you are starting to have some trouble driving. Say, well, I've noticed that Dad's having some difficulty driving, and he's actually admitting it. So let's talk about where we go from here, because I'll be the one doing all the driving then, and I'm not that young either, and blah blah blah. So you have that conversation. You might say, when we hit that point when we can't safely drive anymore, we want you to take the keys from us. Now, if that was me, if that was my mother saying that, I would have said, okay, Mom, I'm going to have you write this down, and I'm going to have you sign it in blood so that I can pull it out. And I said that to our daughters, and Emily said, Mom, you would just say that we faked it. But keep it in control. At the end of the first meeting, schedule the next meeting. And like Andy said, you may not need this for 5 or 10 years, but think of the load that's going to take off of you and your kids, knowing that all of this is laid out. They're tough conversations, there's no doubt about it. But it's a lot tougher when you're in a crisis situation. And we're going, okay, we've got these investments, but we can't really take them out right now, or we're going to get penalized for that, so we can't touch that money. We really don't have enough money to pay the first and last month's deposit on the senior living community right now, so maybe the kids are going to have to help with that, but they're not prepared to do that. All of this stuff is coming up in a crisis situation, and you don't even have all the questions to ask, let alone the answers. So if you want to have a huge weight lifted off your shoulders, this takes work. There's no doubt about it. But it beats scrolling through your phone and Facebook all the time. You're doing something productive. And I can guarantee you, your kids are going to thank you for it. So that when something happens, you just say, here it is. This is what we want. You've got the name of the attorney, the financial planner. You've got Andy's name down as the realtor. You've got the communities that you want to go to. You've got everything. You've got the name of the guy that mows the yard. All this is listed out for the family. Where are all the documents held, stored? Are they in a junk drawer somewhere, or do you have a safe somewhere? What's in the safety deposit box at the bank? All this needs to be spelled out for them. I was so grateful. My folks were very organized, and they did have all that stuff. And we had all the phone numbers and the contact numbers for the insurance and all this type of thing. Had extra copies of the power of attorney because I couldn't talk to Blue Cross Blue Shield until they had a faxed copy of the signed power of attorney. So you want to have all that stuff handy. And these are some of the classes that Andy's going to be giving as time goes on. break them down into smaller portions as to what you really need to do. I mean, everything that we talked about today is a separate class that could be 2 or 3 days.
Yeah. Yep. Well, that's really good. So yeah, just kind of, what I'm hearing you talk about is from a children's perspective, they want to be heard. So just coming from curiosity and trying to get their perspective, but also understanding that it's, at the end of the day, it's your decision. Being proactive versus reactive. Obviously, one is a little bit better than the other.
Oh, a whole bunch.
So, yeah, with that, I guess any other thoughts or comments before we open it up?
I think in that handout, I also have a couple of books for recommended reading that are good. They're designed maybe a little bit more from the adult child's viewpoint, but I think it's also great reading for you because you can take some of those ideas and share them with your kids and kind of put some thoughts in their head. But yeah.
Perfect. Does anyone have any specific questions? You can just raise your hand and then we can call on you. If not, no worries. Yep.
Yes.
Question. 2 years ago, because with her dementia, I thought, I need to be going to place. She didn't care where she went. So I checked the cottages, I checked Independence Village, and the one in Knoxville. And it all came down to the cottages was the cheapest. However, I took her, she got to see the apartment. She seemed to really like it, but she was ready to move. Montez and I thought, I think she's going to move. Driving back to the road, she started, well, I don't know, I like my neighbors, I like the kids that mow my yard, and started going to all this, and she said, I want your brother there, she wanted my daughter there because she was attorney leader, and she was executive for my dad's estate, leaving her mom. And by the time we got there that night, my mom said, well, I don't know if I'm really ready to move. And my brother, who was 2 blocks away, was not getting those 4 o'clock phone calls in the middle of the night. She says, well, I don't think you should go if you're not ready to go. I prepared her, I talked to her, I said, I went, ring his neck. So mom waited, we left her there in her house. I had to have the neighbor come and help her with her medicines, because one day she took 3 days' worth, even though had them in packets. She'd take a nap, think it was the next day, and this happened one day. Took 3 days for it in one day. And my neighbor says, I think it's time. She says, I've talked with her. She knows it's time. Of course, I called the cottages, and they didn't have it available. But Montez helped me get her into Independence Village, and she was there until basically her name came up with the cottages, which is where she is now. Now she's 97, which never got to live. And she's not doing that. Her dementia has gotten worse, but she still seems to know me when I go.
That's great.
The many things have changed with her, and I wish I would have had this before all that came about.
Yeah.
Live and learn. Yeah. Well, when we were parents, there's all kinds of books on how to raise children, how to raise our pets, but there aren't any books out there that tell us how to get old. There aren't. And so that's one of the reasons that we like to do these seminars, because there are so many things, and I just, from the looks of some of you today, when I touched on a few things, I saw a few of you go, oh, hadn't even crossed your minds. So, any other questions? Yes.
I would say you talk a lot about people with their spouse. So myself. So that's really why it's hard to make a decision. And so I did Sundays. She was closer for including that. Thinking about this interest, whereas my daughter who lives in Keller, like I do, so sometimes when she's having 4 kids, so she's not busy. So that's why I just, she helps out, but she helps her dad who lives in Keller also. He's like 80, years. So keep an eye. So it's kind of like her plate. Yeah. So it's hard to know where to turn to. It's nice if you have spouse to talk to.
I was just with a lady yesterday, and her husband passed away about 5 years ago, and I took her to a community, and she did put down the deposit, but her mind was just racing, and I finally just had to kick her by the shoulders, and I said, "Okay, Judy, take a couple deep breaths." Deep breaths, I said, because she was all over the place. I said, "You've got the cart in the next town, and we haven't even hooked up the horses yet, you know." But she said, "This is so hard because I don't have anybody to help me. My son died, my husband's gone. It's just me." And for those of you that are single, it is a little bit tougher.
You have no one to share it with.
Exactly.
Discuss it.
And maybe you form a group at church or something like that where, you know, a bunch of you are single and you get together and you share some of this stuff. You know, what are you doing? Or you get the word out to, you know, that Andy's doing these seminars and this is what's going to be talked about next. I would say, you know, a close friend might be somebody or somebody that you know that has gone through it or is going through it. That's a huge help because then you realize you're not alone, and you're not alone, but right now you're feeling like you're the only person that's going through this.
Yeah. Understanding I'm not the only one that is going through it too. So thank you both for sharing your just stories. Yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and kind of wrap things up here. Obviously, Mary, thank you again for your time and coming.
My pleasure.
And just all of your knowledge and insight. Thank you for everybody else for joining this conversation today. Next month is going to be about digging into what it actually looks like to move, and we titled it "Moving: What to Do with All of Your Stuff Explained." So we'll walk through just the one of the most common downsizing challenges, which is figuring out what stays, what goes, how to move forward with less stress and more clarity. And I'll be joined with Tisa Johnson, and she's with Senior Transitioning Services.
She's amazing.
Yes.
She's done over 800 moves in the last 5 or 6 years. She knows what she's doing.
Yes, definitely. So that'll be a really good one. Also, there are feedback forms in front of you, and just to reiterate from last month and a few months before that, I read every single one of them, and I appreciate anyone who fills them out. I take the feedback seriously. I read them, and I had one person reach out to me directly and asked about scheduling a session. I'm figuring out what the title is going to be, but it's going to be in August. So we had a conversation, and we are going to make it happen. So so I listen to what you guys are wanting for just classes and more education. And I did actually have another attendee reach out and ask for another senior living community panel, which we did in February. So I'm planning to do another one of those in fallish timeframe, probably like October or November. So if there's anything on your mind, whether it's just a topic or a format or just a suggestion or whatever, please write it down. I take it seriously. And then last reminder, if you do have a name tag and you want to be signed up for next month's seminar, I can do that for you, or my team can. Just put your name tag in that clear bucket on the back there, and we'll sign you up just on our side, and we'll let you know that you have been signed up. And if you don't want signed up, don't put your name tag in the bin. Just leave it on the table. So I just want to, thank Mary again. Thank you to our education partners, and thank you everyone for coming. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you find that shop? There's one in Des Moines. No, I don't even go to them. I go in there.
You need a pen?
A couple times. I take time and I get my credits. Buy something else. It works great.
real
Yeah, the traffic has got, we've been there since 77 and the traffic is, yeah. You know, I look at the interstate, we lived in Grimes.